So, our live stream community has been having a really great series of conversations around the upcoming Mass Effect television show. And I think one of the unanimous points that everyone's agreed upon after about the last week of talking about this is that the show cannot touch Shepard in any way, shape, or form if it wants to have any chance at being a successful show. First and foremost is the simple fact that the Shepard story has already been told. We already have that in video games, told in a brilliant way over the first trilogy of games. We also have Andromeda, which for many of us, myself included, was still a fun entry into the Mass Effect world, even if it was sort of a off the beaten path, off to the side, story set in the Mass Effect universe while not having anything to do with the Shepard story. Um, but the discussions we've been having about why it needs to stay away from talking about Shepard, it's not just because the Shepard story has already been told. It's also because any way you approach it, whether it's male Shep or fem Shep, people are going to have feelings about the way the show is treating that character. But if they don't touch that at all, and instead they just have a story set within the Mass Effect space, they have a much greater chance at having a successful show, much like the way Fallout has operated by having a show that is within the Fallout universe while not touching any of the Fallout stories told in games. They've sort of briefly danced around certain ideas and concepts, but they haven't specifically touched any main canon, if that makes sense. Um, I look at, I think we were talking about this the other day. What are the types of stories they could tell in a Mass Effect story? One would be to have a show set during the course of the games themselves, and we could have it be about anybody but Shepard. You could have people on the outskirts of what's going on as Shepard and his team are going through everything um, with the Reapers. But a perhaps even better solution would be to start the show at the beginning when humanity first discovers the Mass Effect relays and how that opens them up to this wide world of possibilities. If I was a showrunner, my first season would definitely start there. I would start with the discovery of the Mass Effect relays, and we would explore how humanity branches out into space and learns what they are a part of. And from there, you can get into all sorts of craziness with the various wars that have happened over the years and the relationships between all of the various species and races that are a part of the Mass Effect world. I think that touching Shepard is tricky. If you do male Shepard, you're going to have people who have feelings one way or the other about how the male Shepard is being represented. The more problematic is going to be the fem Shep. Even though FemShep is statistically speaking the number one most popular Shepard played throughout the Mass Effect series, FemShep is going to be the most tricky to navigate because the moment they announce that the show has a female lead, all of the anti-woke brigade is going to come out of the woodwork and start yelling about how there's a woke agenda and it's Amazon, they have woke agenda policies and it's just going to be this woke piece of trash. And if the show stands any hope of being successful, it has to avoid those types of controversies. And the only way it's going to avoid those types of controversies is just staying away from the Shepard persona entirely. I think that it's a very interesting concept to look at. I know there has been some discussion about the writer who is coming over from, I believe it's Fast 9, and we've already seen some kickback related to that of people saying, "Oh no, it's just how horrific." And I would like to point out that the director of Chernobyl and The Last of Us on HBO, which were both multiple award-winning shows, before he did Chernobyl and Last of Us, he was involved with comedy for many, many, many years. Worked in comedy and then made a change and moved over into dramatic television. Just because someone has written something in the past or primarily worked in a specific genre doesn't necessarily mean that's the only place their talents lie. The beauty of being a writer, if you're a good writer, and I can say this as someone who has over 20 million words in print, is that you're going to work on a lot of projects over the years if you're any good. Especially if you're any good, you're going to be able to quickly adapt to and write within all these different mediums and genres. So I'm not worried about the writer of the show, or who's going to be showrunner or anything else like that. I'm specifically worried about what's the story they're going to be telling. I really personally hope that they stay far, far, far away from anything to do with the stories that have already been told, because I just think that we've already got an award-winning trilogy of games which have told that story exceptionally well from the perspective of that one character. Now we could set it during the reemergence of the Reapers, and we could have it be following along in the footsteps of those people. I think it would be really cool to have somebody, um, maybe even who's a Spectre. That could be fun. Um, but I think that messing around with that existing canon is just asking for trouble. The other side of the coin would be to go the route that they did with the Halo show. Now, I'm one of the few people out there who actually enjoyed the Halo show. Not the first season so much. The first season was definitely hit and miss, but the second season in particular was really good. And they sort of looked at the Halo Reach story and told that from an alternate perspective. And I thought that it worked really well for the show. And it led up to the eventual arrival at the Halo ring. And that would have been a great place because we got the reveal of the flood during the second part of that season, and it would have started that third season right where the first game picks up, where we're on the Halo ring and the flood's there and all this other stuff is going on. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. But again, this goes back to that conversation I was saying earlier. When you start to touch a canon character like the Master Chief, you're going to have people who have very strong feelings on one side or the other, because that show is the perfect example. On the one side, you have some hardcore vocal minority fans who were like, he should have never taken his helmet off. How dare he? And those players only played the video games. And then you have players who played the video games but also read all of the novels who said, well, actually, if you read the novels, Master Chief has his helmet off a lot of the time. We just don't necessarily see that in the games, because in the games he's almost always in a combat scenario, and so he always has his helmet on. And that's when you get into this discussion of who's a true fan and who's not a true fan, and this isn't an actual representation of the character, and this isn't actually a representation, and you have people shouting about that's not my Master Chief. And I don't want to see that happen for the Mass Effect show. What I want is for the Mass Effect show to be like the Fallout show. I want it to be a super successful, award-winning, massive audience drawing television show. And it's definitely possible. I know some people have strong feelings about Amazon more than the other, but Amazon produces award-winning television, and all you have to look at is Fallout as the perfect example of Amazon doing really cool stuff with a beloved science fiction franchise. So it can be done. So I'm very interested to see what direction they push with the upcoming Mass Effect television show. Um, there's a lot of different ways they could go around it, especially if they go with an origin story. There's various points of entry into the stories that came before Shepard ever came around, where they could dive into the backlog of the politics between the races and the wars and everything else. Or they could go all the way back to the Mass Effect Relay discovery. Like I said, that would be where I would start it. But that's just my take. I'm sure everybody's got their own take, and that's the beauty of just pontificating about the possibilities, because none of us know. It's a long way away, and until that time, all we can do is sit back and wait and hope that it's going to be really awesome. And I think it will be, especially if you just love Mass Effect. More Mass Effect is never a bad thing. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams, 7 a.m. more or less Central Time on YouTube and Twitch. See you in the next one, everybody. Stay safe. Happy gaming.